April, and then some additional comments came from our buyer, and then ultimately we received an approval letter in August of 24. And so we're moving that review of that document as well as some of the mitigation measures here today. Regional earthquake faults, there's just a couple that are along the south edge of the city. And again, this is part of the review that happens with building permits. If you're near an earthquake fault, there's additional standards that are applied to your building permits and grading permits. We've also been working with SBCAG and the Airport Land Use Commission to update the safety element and providing within this document the airport safety compatibility map. There's also an effort that planning manager will be bringing forward here in the near future on some of the rezonings that will need to happen around the airport. Go ahead. So just to give you an update on how this element went through public review, in March of this year, we circulated the document for a 30-day public review and then brought it forward to the Planning Commission on May 14th. There were a number of questions that were raised at that hearing, and I'm just going to go through a couple of them. And when we brought the project back in July, we had answers to some of their questions. So next page. One of them was in regards to what the state fire marshal's requirements now are for secondary access or secondary full access for projects. The safety element identified 3 neighborhoods that are limited access, and so the Planning Commission wanted to understand a little bit more about those neighborhoods, and so we provided this illustration for them to review and discuss. In the future, we will be looking very closely at projects, making sure that they do have secondary access for emergency routes. Other questions came up as to where did all of the additional measures that and action items that were added to the safety element, where did they come from? The original safety element had 39 measures. There were 17 new measures added, and those measures 14 through 22 were direct requirements of CAL FIRE's comments to the document. And then we have additional elements that were tied to addressing climate change, whether it was for heat, for water, for changes to temperatures, those kind of things were part of the actions that were added for climate change. And then Measure 44 was part of the Airport Land Use Plan. So after we reviewed all of those measures, the Planning Commission understood what was being added to this safety element. Go ahead. During the July Planning Commission meeting, there was a discussion throughout the document. We went through a number of edits that occurred, and we had a long discussion about the goal 4. And the recommendation by the Planning Commission was to delete 2 of the policies that talked about seismic vulnerability buildings and reinforcement, and trying to understand why they needed to have these 2 policies in the document, because the city already has the zoning ordinances and building code requirements to address these 2 items. So the Planning Commission took an action to delete policies 2.2 and 2.4 and rely on what's already existing in the building codes and in the state requirements for those buildings that are of seismic risk. And right now, based on the list that we have from the building department, there's 4 to 5 buildings in the downtown area that has some exposure for vulnerability to earthquakes. So we're here today to answer any questions. you want to review the safety element update, open it to the public comments, and then adopt a resolution with the changes recommended by the planning commission and the staff. There is one item that staff is recommending, and that is in the element, we did add at figure S-1, which is the actual land use plan for the city. And that probably is more appropriate living in the land use element, not in the safety element. So we're going to work with the consultant to remove that figure, and we're asking for your direction tonight to allow that to occur. We're here for any questions, and look forward to your action.
A quick question with the modification of San Lucia Canyon Road being one of our main exit points. How does that affect our plan with what's going on, or rather what's not going on with Caltrans other than blocking it off?
You're talking about Santa Lucia Road? The work that they're doing to avoid the left turns onto the highway, the alternative route is to take those that want to go north to Vandenberg, down to Constellation, and then make the U-turn back up the highway. And so at this point, it's not impacting the evacuation plan for the city, because you have that route alternative.
It's just 3 miles longer, because now you got to leave to go to Santa Maria. You got to make a right turn, go to the village. Of course, we know that won't be clustered, right, if there's a panic mode, right? And then you got to go through all that, and of course, everybody's going to be leaving the village. And then so, anyhow, I think.
Yes, I did attend the meeting that Caltrans presented to the public probably back in March, I believe. And this is an interim solution. They're going to monitor it and maybe come up with some other alternatives for the circulation for that particular location.
And as Mark said, maybe 10 years might be something. I was at that meeting as well, and I did comment to them that it was potentially interfering with our safety element of our general plan. I don't know, maybe it'd be good to be proactive to get a letter written to Caltrans explaining this is a major complication for the people, at least getting it on record if we should have an issue. Heaven forbid that everybody's trying to exit that way and they can't get out, but at least maybe the city manager could write them a letter to say, hey, this was in our plan and you guys did this. What do you think about that? Maybe they can say it doesn't matter, or they can say, yeah, we got it on record.
Mr. Mayor, Chief Martin. So the blockade that they're putting on that roadway is going to be in an emergency situation. We'll be able to drive over it. So basically, if we were going to evacuate the city, we would ensure that there would be a vehicle present there to allow people to use that exit and manage the traffic that way.
Yeah, they would have the white barricades. I just know my grandmother driving up to white barricades, not knowing that she could go over the top of them, would freak out and stop right there. So
And that's why
any point that does that. And I was at that meeting when they were referencing that.
we would put a unit out there so people knew that they could navigate it.
As long as we can get out there. Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. When they get anything that's on a blocked door, block ingress and egress, I think it'd be good for the point of record that, especially since we have it in our plan, that is the main exit. But thank you, Chief Martin, for that as well. I don't know if you want me to get a couple other people to go along with that, maybe at this time, to make a request to get a letter. Caltrans to put it on the record that it would be part of our plan. We get a couple of nod heads, it does. Any head nods? The head nod. I got 2 other people to get a letter. I think it'd be important to put it on the record, especially since we're addressing it currently this time. Any other questions? Councilmember Bridge.
That was a great presentation. It was a little quick for me. So I have a couple questions about the presentation. Did I understand you correctly to say that each element that we're updating does not count towards our 4 revisions a year?
The first time that we bring an element to the city council counts. If we have additional hearings on that particular element, it does not count towards our 4 determinations for updating the elements.
So this does count as well?
This does count, yes.
Okay. Could you go back to the hazards chart, just too quick? There you go. Yeah, that one. I thought I saw in the plan discussions on a drought.
That's in the category of climate change,
Climate change.
item C. And,
That answers my question.
okay,
Could you go to the flood map?
sorry,
Could you go to the flood map, please?
that's,
Can you help me understand, McLaughlin's Crossing, do you know McLaughlin's Crossing? Where people used to drive across the road and go to, Mission Hills?
It's all the way out north A
Do
Street.
you know where A Street is on this map?
yes.
Can you maybe use your little pointer or something? I'm trying to understand the interface along that section of the city where that floodplain is. I can't tell, but it looks like it's kind of like beyond Riverbend Park.
Yeah, I'm sorry, not,
The McLaughlin Crossing is right where the black
Do
dot.
you know where Riverbend Park is? Where is it on that map?
I think we're.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, it's not a trick question, I'm just trying to understand, because there's a lot of discussion about what we can and cannot do in River Park. And that looks, to me, and I could be wrong, because I'm trying to interpret it out, that looks like Riverbend Park is in the same floodplain as the entire town. So I'm trying to understand, if this is an accurate map, where Riverbend Park is on that map. Is it?
Yeah, it's on that, it's on
It's
that
in the
north
blue
side.
section?
Yeah, it's
You
right
know
on
about
that.
that?
It's where the dotted city limit line crosses the end of A Street, when it runs across the grade road. Where the low water bridge used to always be.
He's talking about the southeast.
Okay. Maybe we could talk about that later, then just help me understand. They all are telling you it's correct the way it is, so I'm okay.
So there you go, so that's your arrow, you got an arrow.
Oh, that's where
McLaughlin
the
Crossing.
Gotcha.
Right there, where it's washed out a little bit to the left.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Could we see the earthquake, chart, please? So, is that saying, it's kind of hard for me to read, but is that saying it's 1 in 130,000 years? That's our, or tennier, what does that mean exactly? What are these statements telling you right here?
So each one of those are different kinds of faults being identified, and one of them is they also have when, the years that the fault may have occurred. So, they've identified like a slip plane, a reverse fault, and they're estimating that happened like 130 years ago.
130 or 130?
130,000 years ago. But it is identified as a geologic formation along that particular edge of the city as you go from one formation to another.
All right. Do you want to just have us ask questions on these charts or about what we're being asked to about?
Go ahead, ask away. Ask.
I was trying to understand if the EIR is an addendum to the entire general plan, or is it to the safety element that we're focused on?
So So the original environmental impact report was done for the 2030 general plan. That environmental document was certified in 2010. Over the years, the city has used that environmental document for a number of changes to either the general plan or particular zoning designations throughout the city. This is actually the 8th amendment to that general plan, and it included the categories of housing element, safety element, circulation element, and environmental justice element were all included in this addendum. As I noted previously, we're kind of stretching that EIR. It's now 15 years old and a number of addendums. But I will tell you that that EIR was a very thorough document, and I think it's credible and prudent to continue, at least in this actions, to use that environmental document. And then just add the addendum, which is additional review. CEQA and the laws have changed. So there was a discussion about vehicle miles traveled, greenhouse gas, and wildfire were added categories of that addendum.
And greenhouse gases came with the climate hazard?
Correct. As well as traffic impact.
And is the climate hazard a state mandated
Yes,
issue?
yes. And that was not addressed in our previous city element.
Okay, in your plan you had, I'll just hold it up because I think you might recognize it. It's the assessment of the hazard versus the probability. You familiar with that? You have some that are in the high probability category. If they had been in the medium probability category, would it have changed significantly I guess it'd be the mitigation measures that you're proposing in this plan?
No, they would probably still be able to be developed. It would just be additional, either SOS reports, additional, work with the building code. There's different tiers for projects based on the hazard probabilities. And so it doesn't necessarily preclude development for happening. It's just what standards are going to be applied.
Okay. I guess I had some concern about the high probability of the drought. I mean, we went through a pretty significant drought, but Wampum didn't get impacted at all. We did implement all the state mandated requirements, but if you looked at our water table, it was, I guess you could measure it, but it wasn't much. So to have that be a high probability was something surprising to me. And if it impacts people developing, then I have a concern on that. And then, okay. And the last concern, well, I had a couple more, I guess. It seemed like we didn't use, when there was a Vandenberg incident, we didn't use 246 as a escape route. Was that because of the bridge, or what was the reasoning behind that?
I thought that in the DKS study, you're talking about the emergency evacuation routes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to spend a moment looking at that.
Okay. Well, you could just take a note and come back. If that was just a typo and it got left out by mistake, you could put it back in. It's not impactful on approval tonight, but it just seemed odd to me that if I had something going on in Vandenberg, a mishap, I would have to deal with it. And then,
If I may ask, what page were you referring to on that?
I was looking, I did a cut and paste out of the plan, so I didn't have a whole, I apologize. But it is in the table 1 scenario summary, Lompoc evacuation analysis. And it was the Vandenberg Space Force missile, or mishap rather.
So, I'm just looking at page 8 of the evacuation scenarios in the DKS study. And it talks about different scenarios, one of them being a wildfire northeast of Longboat, and they're recommending the evacuation go south to Santa Barbara. If there's the mishap at the base, they're recommending that we go south or to the west, to the east,
Well,
rather than,
246 would be to the east.
right,
It's
exactly.
not listed there.
And then if there's an earthquake in, again, because the falls are on the south side, you would be going north.
Yeah, no, the only one I was concerned about is, and I'm not too concerned, but it says south to Santa Barbara, but I would be very surprised everybody didn't just jump on 246 for Buellton. It would be a safer route.
That's a very good catch, and I think we will talk to our consultant about making that change.
Measure 8, you use the word adequate peak water load. And I don't know what the word adequate means. And I could see that being used as we don't have enough water, you can't develop on the hillside. And so I didn't see where that was defined. Maybe that's a standard term, and tell me that.
So, measure 8 does note adequate peak load water supply, and I'm not going to have the exact details, but in order to determine adequate peak load, you take what is the load throughout the city, and I believe it's a 50% higher for peak load. If there was not only everybody using the water, but then you have a fire, so you need additional water source.
So as this is written, would that be grounds to stop development?
This is, when we're looking at developments within the city, particularly as, we have a lot of potentially new development coming in, we're always going to be looking at our infrastructure and the capacity of that infrastructure and making sure that we have adequate water storage and also fire protection.
Is that a diplomatic yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, my last question, you'd be glad to hear. There were several measures in here that, and this might be coming on my pet peeve, this general plan has been around for a bunch of years, I forget whether it's 20 years. And there are measures that are listed in here that say we've got more work to do. Like the city shall amend the subdivision ordinance. I mean, that's not new, that's been here for a long time. How do we address those? Are we saying we're gonna pick them all up now and get them done? They're kind of sprinkled throughout the general plan too, so I'm just trying to understand how this works. So we're just putting a plan together and then I'll come up back when we do the next one and list them again and say the work should be done?
It's not uncommon to have policy and action items that are prioritized, and updating the subdivision ordinance is not a high priority. I think that the directive of the update to the general plan this go around is going to be combing through all of these old policies and action items to be more efficient and actually say, what are we going to do? And it may very well be that some of these things can be rolled into the update and we amend the ordinance at the same time.
Okay, well, it's really not related to this, but the other task we have on our plate is 2050. And I'm gonna probably take the position that any one of these measures or mitigations that have been on the books for the last 30 years and not accomplished probably don't belong in the books at all. So, it was an excellent, you guys did an excellent job. really, had a lot of respect for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Paul.
So I just have a quick question, and I'm gonna throw a big picture question out there, based on one of your slides. There's a slide up there where you showed 3 neighborhoods that didn't have enough ingress egress. Do you mind pulling that one up real quick? And again, in my short question on that, again, that is what it is, but does that come along with some, you said that planning commission is looking, or planning is looking at possibly dealing with that? Does that mean state mandate that we adjust that or make additional ingress egress by a certain amount of time? Or how does that?
When
is this
these,
just-
when these neighborhoods were planned and developed, the state law wasn't as mandated
Sure.
in regards to secondary access. These neighborhoods butt up against the south of the city, up into the slopes, and so the connections are hard to make between the different neighborhoods. The one project on the right-hand side is a mobile home park, and it has a main access, but it also has a secondary gate where they store their RVs. So if there was an emergency, they could open up that gate, but it's not a daily use access, so some people that live there might not know that they could go out that way. What the requirement now is, and I'm speaking to the fire department, is that accesses need to be daily use access to routes that people are used to using. So that, it used to be you could do a main gate and an emergency connection somewhere, but people don't use it, they don't know where they're going. So as projects come forward now, we're required to find alternative routes.
Sure. And again, I have no problem with that. I think, worst case scenario, everyone deserves a way to get out safely and quickly if necessary. The reason I brought that up is not because I have any stress about those 3 neighborhoods. We have to do what we have to do, but it makes me zoom out a little bit as a whole city, knowing that we don't have McLaughlin crossing, we don't have a bridge that goes across Central that we imagined years ago. As a city as a whole, where do we land with other cities that have general ingress, egress that might be slightly comparable? Are we sitting ducks at all, having only a couple of exits? Meaning as a city, not as a neighborhood, are we impacted at all by that big picture? Because again, a worst case scenario, we've got 8,000 to 10,000 people, cars that need to leave. I'm just curious, has that come up in any of this?
It did not come up in this analysis because it is an existing situation. There's only so many routes. And what the evacuation analysis did was look at the probability of certain event happening, which direction should they be directed to go out of. And so, it would be much better if there was additional routes, but where we're located, we're dealing with what we have.
I'm not putting any pressure on you guys. I was just highlighting that, I hope that we figure out how to make sure everyone can get out of their neighborhood safely. But I still think long term, it's been a long discussion that if something really bad happens or we lose one bridge, that type of thing, we're very limited on access for our whole community. So thanks.
So glad you mentioned that. So as for measure 6 in the book, with McLaughlin Crossing, as it says in here, the city shall update comprehensive emergency management and recovery plan as required to reflect new information which affects the safety of local residents. In addition, the city shall investigate the need for an additional road crossing on the San Ynez River in the event of major evacuation. Which we talked about it, we rumbled about it before, but let me make another motion that we get another letter to the county to find out what's going on with McLaughlin Crossing. I know Councilmember Sargent mentioned in the past. Allegedly, there was a letter written some 5 or 6 years ago that said, hey, FEMA will pay for a new low water bridge every once every 2 years, but we're the county, we don't do low water bridges. And City of Lompoc, you can lead the way and we'll let you lead the way. Because I think it's still in a number of general plans identified as well in there, in the McLaughlin Crossing aspect. So we kind of rumbled about it, but now that we're talking about it, you mentioned as well, it's in here in measure 6. So why not do one of these things we're saying we're gonna do? What? Can I get two other people to support a letter going to the county to see what's going on?
Yes.
Councilor Sarver?
Yes.
Councilor Paul? Okay. Sorry about that, I just had to, with the segue from Councilmember Paul, I had to just
Hope there.
send the county general fund, correct, so. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Any other questions before we open this to public comment? Thank you, Lori. Let's get public comment.
And going through this PowerPoint, I have some questions. And my name's Leanne Wolliver, by the way. if you don't know me. Is the public able to get a copy of the PowerPoint that was just shown to us? Is one question.
Should be on the website, yes, correct.
Okay, the second question is about landmarks. As you can see, it was hard to figure out where we were in these different maps. And can we have like school sites or areas where we might have a large gathering of community members on the map, which I think would help, because you never know when any of these things are going to happen. They could happen when school is going on or other things, so it'd be nice to have landmarks. I lived through the 1969 flood of the city of Lompoc, and it was chaotic. I mean, things happened that nobody even expected would happen. And I know during that time, they had certain parts of the city scheduled, if the water got too high, to get to higher land. And I wondered if we had anything like that, because floods can happen very quickly. Another question is people working in Santa Barbara. We have a big commuter traffic, or commuters that go to Santa Barbara. It happened during business hours. Would we have, or what would that look like if there was an emergency? A lot of people out of town, and their families are here in Lompoc. I would, if I was one of those commuters, I would be heading back to Lompoc any way I can to get to my family. How that's going to work. Another question is, did the city take a survey of how many of our first responders, critical support, live out of the city or in another county? I know that's a big problem in Santa Barbara City. Over 50% of those people that work in Santa Barbara live out of town. And I know it's very high rent or living there, but that is a big concern about that. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Karen Hallenstein. I want to thank this council, every one of you and the mayor, for being such good stewards of this issue of the McLaughlin crossing, to bring it up. And also, I want you to know that when I delved into this and started talking about it on the dais a year or more ago, I did go to Hart's office and Lamone's office over in Santa Maria and inquired about it. And all of the staff over there communicated a willingness to advocate for that. So if you haven't already, you should contact their offices, because they did all acknowledge the need and also the vision that I have when I explain it's going to change our town. Thank you very much.
Anybody else, public comment? All right, goes public comment, bring back to council. Questions, deliberations, anything else to say? No, it's a lot to digest. jump all at once. I've been to several meetings, I know it's been on the agenda.
Yeah, I just have one quick question. Is this actually a public comment on this plan? Is this a public session, whatever the right term is?
Are you adding more public comments to this?
This is a formal public hearing on the safety.
Public hearing. So will the public's concerns be included in the plan as at least comments?
They'll be included in the record.
Oh, there you are, I'm sorry. So you're shaking your head,
We
yes.
can't hear your head nod, yes.
Hide behind that podium, I didn't.
I don't want to speak for the city attorney, but yes, this is part of the public record, and some of the suggestions that were made can be included in the action.
That's revolving.
Maybe I just did have one follow-up question. I appreciated the series of questions. One that stood out to me is the complication of our commuter population. I know it is what it is. What we do have in excess of other neighboring cities, there's a lot of people that leave their families at home. So again, I don't know how that might be included, but that is a thoughtful piece of the dynamics of our city. So, here's about it.
That's for Starbucks.
Okay, well, I go ahead and make the motion, we adopt resolution 6771, parentheses 25.
I'll second. Vote. That's 5-0, Marty. Good job. Right. Item number 9. One comment on number 9, anybody?
Mayor, item number 9, staff is requesting that the city council simply vote to continue the item in the public hearing to October 7th.
And thank you guys for that one. This was our 3-day labor weekend. Thank you guys. Thanks for pulling that other 300 pages for me.
I'll make a motion to continue. Item 9.
I'll second.
We do need to say the date to October 7th.
To continue it until October 7th.
Okay, get a motion by Ball, and second by Dega, go ahead and vote. Man, there we go, another one. 5-0 again. Right. Down to council requests. Do we need to take a public comment on the other one, or we good? We're okay without it?
No, we're good with that.
Okay, all right, we'll do more later, right? Okay, number 10, award a contract purchase order, the amount not to exceed 135 to Lily Pad EV LLC for purchase of electric vehicle charging stations, discussed in resolution number 6669, parentheses 24, consideration of change in location of electrical vehicle charging installation funded by Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District, 2023 Clean Air Grants, Infrastructure Program, from 123 North 8th Street to Loveland Valley Medical Center parking lot. All you? Oh, Councilor Starbuck.
I'm going to recuse from this item due to owning real property within 500.
You just know there's more tacos in there, don't you? Councilor Ball, are you going to tacos too? No? Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor Mosley and council members, local community. Thank you guys for all coming out tonight. So I'm here. This stems essentially from a council request to bring back resolution number 666924. We had previously been awarded a grant from the Air Pollution Control District. It was the 2023 Clean Air Grants program. We received an offer for $187,000 and had an anticipated cost of about $525,000. So that resolution had appropriated the funding, accepted the grant agreement, and authorized us to execute the agreement. We've been working on the project, and the sounds like there are other opportunities to look at also. So we've been exploring that. We've gone down a pretty far path as a staff report notes for the 123 North 8th Street location. So we're essentially ready to bid out for construction. We have this one purchase that we're recommending to approve, and then after that, it's ready to bid out. The other, so essentially what this item is recommending is to approve the purchase for those EV chargers and then provide direction on whether we want to either reaffirm the resolution and move forward as the plan is right now. You guys can direct staff to explore modifications of the project. So we have spoken with their pollution control district. They are flexible, so they're willing to assist us in whichever way that we choose. They had said that, and going down to item 3, providing alternate direction to include the option of moving forward with the current project and also exploring another opportunity for the hospitals project. They did recommend that path as well, but I'm happy to kind of dive in or start wherever you guys are interested in this item.
You are on an extension, correct, on this already?
We are in extension, so we have until the end of 2027.
Any other questions for Stephen? Councilor Baker.
Stephen, as we can see here, the resolution to reaffirm 123 North 8th Street is still in place, correct?
Yes,
That's what our direction is. And then the Valley Medical Group came up as a substitute or an alternative or a secondary location for the EV charging stations.
Yes, so there's a grant opportunity open right now. We've been working closely through the past week and a half since the last council meeting to try to scope something out that would be sufficient. So we do have an idea of the grant. We've spoken to APCD. They said as long as you get something into us, we can refine details. But we're getting pretty detailed right now. We're looking at chargers that the medical centers needing and what they're looking at, kind of scoping out. They have some changes on their end that they'd like to address also. We currently have an approved plan set, but I think that's going to change a little. So we have some work to do definitely on that project. But the way I look at it from the electric utilities perspective, I think both of them will be net positive projects. I think enhancing more services are going to it's going to help the electric utility and the ratepayers. So that's kind of my thought on both.
It sounds like we're not too deep in the medical center direction now because they already have EV chargers there. I'd be more of an advocate of providing those amenities to downtown where the mom and pops are actually looking to thrive in businesses. We're looking for economic development, but it seems like if you use your eyes and you feel and you touch and you smell, people would probably get a little excited to see some improvements in that direction there. So unless there's a funding mechanism that's different for 123 North 8th Street versus the medical center, is there anything that's different except that it's an alternate location or somebody wants it over there?
Not really different. So one consideration is the current grant. So if we were to amend the current grant that we have, 187,000, we could do that. We could push it to the medical center location. We would be limiting ourselves because the Air Pollution Control District has expressed that they can collaborate on grants, so they can, and there's an up to $250,000 opportunity, and I'm assuming that the costs are going to be well over that. So the medical center being a sensitive receptor, they get kind of bonuses. You can get up to 80% of the project cost, $250,000 for the current open grant application period. That doesn't have to do with the past one. So if we wanted to move forward with partnering with the medical center and looking at installing some EV chargers, we could do that. I think it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, no, I like the opportunity for us to expand, but I also look at the the downtown efforts and what we can do to help the local businesses and our economics. You know, we talk about economic vitality, especially down South 8th Street. We have our Old Town Fair, we have the theater project, Lompoc Record Building. We have a lot of things that could probably take advantage of the charging stations being nearby, as far as pedestrians and people that want, especially with Flower Festival and things. So I hope we go that direction. But thank you very much.
Councilor Green.
I had a little difficulty hearing what you were saying about APDC. Did I hear you say that they are okay with either location?
Yes. Okay,
So your initial staff report kind of indicated that there was some risk associated with getting that approved. That has changed?
No, I didn't write with intentional risk necessarily. I don't know, is there a specific,
Maybe I misread it.
or, I mean,
But it matters not how I read it.
yeah.
You're saying that ABD, the Air Pollution Control District, it's Mox next to them, whether we put it downtown or by the hospital.
To them, it's fine. To us, I think that's where the real consideration is
So
we
you were
spent
concerned,
80,000.
I thought I read, and again, I misread it, that there was 80K of risk that if they didn't approve it, but now you're saying that risk doesn't really exist.
Well, it doesn't. We'd have to look at the scoping of the project. So because of where the medical center's project is in its planning right now, or in that phase, the more or less development, and going back to the plan sets, we're not really sure what electric infrastructure is needed right now. So we scoped out what has been approved, but there are going to be changes to lessen the cost of the entire project. So we're not exactly sure what that project entails. What I do know is we have spent $80,000. They are carbon credit proceeds also, so that does bring up another implication of whether or how we would retract that. I'm not sure at this moment, and we could be directed to look into that. I don't think that'd be the most viable option. I see, and where I recommended in the report is moving forward with both is the cleanest step forward, cleanest path forward. I think changing, not only with what we currently have going on, or the project that's essentially shovel ready, that's really gonna, it will have some time delays. It will cause a little bit of confusion and just cleaning that up, but it can be done. I believe that's what I've been told by Air Pollution Control District. Yeah, and if we were to apply for another grant, I do see the benefit in more funding. So there's additional funding that we could potentially realize for that project and move forward with both.
Thank you.
Councilor Bolt.
So, a couple of quick things, and maybe City Attorney can clarify a little bit. So, the current 123 South 8th Street, that's a city-owned?
Yes, so it was gifted to us in 2020.
So we own that, so we've got a deal, the ACP, whatever they call it, but we've got a grant, it's almost ready to go, but that's on city-owned parking lot. The medical center obviously needs parking, everyone needs to plug in more EVs than ever. That's a privately owned parking lot. To my understanding, the state does enforce or have some sort of, you talked about the scope of that project. Doesn't the state insist that private, build-outs for new parking lots to some scale need to come up with their own money to install a certain amount of chargers? So has that been discussed? Or, we can't necessarily fill that gap for a private industry, but maybe we can supplement. Is there any clarity in any of that part of this?
I'm actually awaiting clarity from the Air Pollution Control District, so I did float the question about how that, requirements for local, state, federal regulations come into play with this. That is one of the guidelines, is that the funding can be used for a requirement from one of those, from a local code or a state code anything. I mean, this is really from the California Green Building Standards, so you kind of have to work in surplus. That being said, it's kind of a tiered structure, so however many parking station or parking spaces calls for X amount of EV ready with EV chargers in it, and then it calls for more EV stubs ready for future build out. So there's kind of where, like I said, we're not too sure because we don't know how many parking spaces there will end up needing, what the electric requirements are. So I just know that we may have some limiting factors. That doesn't detract from the entire project cost. So ABC has instructed us to apply regardless, and we'll see where, they'll do the math for us, so.
And then, thank you for that. My second thing, just kind of following up with Councilmember Vega. When this initial discussion happened, I think the intent, at least from my understanding, I still believe strongly in it, that having those chargers downtown is part of a strategy to get those who maybe traveling through town and maybe are tourists. And normally they'd stop somewhere else, but now they look on their app and there's a charger downtown Longboat. The hope was to get them to plug in, sure, spend a little bit of money on electricity, but maybe walk to some of our shops, get some coffee, buy an instrument at the music shop, go to the garden shop, learn a little bit more about Longboat, and spend money and actually benefit our tax, or sales tax base. I don't personally have any issue against where the chargers are, but I would just caution us that if the intent is to have this big picture overview of economic growth in downtown, if our main charging option for out-of-towners to charge their electric vehicles across the street from the hospital, no offense, everyone needs to plug in, but you're limited to options. I've eaten at the cafeteria, it's delicious, but your other option is Circle K for lunch. And no offense against them either, but you hear where I'm coming from. For me, it's a no-brainer. I teach at Hancock. They had a lot of electric chargers that were empty last semester. No one using them. Haha, I laughed at myself. I bought an electric car. I thought that's a good idea. I go there to plug in. There's no empty spaces. I have to get on a waiting list now. So in the course of one semester, there are more and more people that need to plug in. So again, out-of-towners are always looking for a gas station. People with EVs, and that per capita for EV users in California is going through the roof right now. And again, my whole hope was that we would attract additional spending from out-of-town dollars, considering the location of those chargers. So for me, I would personally hate to jeopardize that. I'd also hate to jeopardize it and then give you guys a bunch of direction to change canoes and then find out that the scope or what they're planning there, we can't necessarily use those monies because we need to supplement instead of just being the sole provider of those chargers. So at least for me personally, I still think it makes sense where they're at. I think there are chargers everywhere, so as additional opportunities come up to supplement and help, I think that's important too. But for me, I'm still stuck on 123 South or North H. I think that's a great spot for this investment, personally.
I guess there might have been a question in there, but start deliberating already. Let me fill in where this came a little bit from and the reason why I made this request. And not opposed to charging stations down there. It's just a time constraint that was needed for something else. The hospital is looking at putting an expanded parking lot, which they desperately need, and which triggers a multi-$100,000 investment on top for charging stations, which becomes a deal killer. We know we've been to Home Depot and a lot of hospitals parking in Home Depot. We'd like to see them build their parking lot to help expedite the hospital with building this, not against charging stations downtown, which we could get a grant again in the future to expedite a project in the city of Longboat. And we know probably one of the largest employers in town is the hospital, and the parking lot is probably one of the busiest in town is the hospital. And an area that's probably in the need of the greatest point for these charging stations now is the hospital. And to help expedite the situation there. Not opposed to filing for a grant to do more there. This was trying to work together. We always talk about working with the hospital and the school district. Well, this opportunity came up. I was approached the hospital with a parking situation they had. I was approached by Home Depot with a parking situation they were having. And it's like, the hospital's like, hey, we're trying to build this parking lot. That's 77 parking places were gonna cost $2 million for these EV stations. It's like, well, let's try to work together. We have a grant, we maybe work with it here. Talking with ABCD, it's like, hey, maybe we can jog you around. We can help expedite something we definitely know. I think there's 500, 600, 700 employees down at the hospital, and we know there are tens of thousands of visits. Probably the busiest parking lot in town is the hospital. Not saying that we don't keep moving forward and putting charging down there. This was something to help expedite a parking lot for a hospital. And we know that with what's going on with San Cal, you've heard the horror stories and the battle that they're having at the hospital with funding and stuff in certain areas. This would help sweep it a little bit, help with the project. It might be delayed for multiple years if we didn't step up. So I know I deliberated a little bit there, but I was also trying to fill in a little bit of why we got where we are and why I made the motion that I didn't make. It's not against bringing them in downtown, but it's to help in a situation of a time constraint and a financial constraint to help partner with the hospital. We always say we want to partner with everybody. This would be a great opportunity. Again, Steve did a great job with what we have. Not opposed to going out and did talk with the head of ABCD in lining up more grants in the future. This was to help expedite and kill multiple birds with one stone. So that's kind of where we're at anyhow. That's where, well, you have something to respond to.
So, and with all respect, I guess I politely disagree. Look, I'm not against, I know there's impact issues, look, we don't see that. I guess for me, we've already gone so far down the path. We're gonna rip something down to help supplement a parking issue. And again, I hear that, but I think I'll put it this way. I have people that bug me all the time about stuff that's on their mind in this community. I have got people that reach out and say, hey, what are we gonna do about chargers? So I said, well, we've got some chargers coming. I've not heard one person, I got one email, and again, no offense against the needs for the parking lot, I get that, and Home Depot's impacted, but I haven't got one person, or had one person say to me, what can you guys do to help build a parking lot for the hospital? So for me, I guess I need some clarity. Are we saying unless we kind of go backwards on a decision that I thought was somewhat binding in direction and costs that have already been bills that are starting to add up for this build out, that the only way that the hospital can get this parking lot and solve Home Depot parking issues is for us to do this? I don't know. For me, I'd love to hear from the community about that. I haven't yet, so.
Let me go back to Councilmember Bridge.
Stephen, did you develop the grant that we submitted, or did somebody else on the staff develop the grant?
Back in 2023, so that was under direction of our city manager, but we did put together a grant. I mean,
Okay, well,
there's a lot of
Dean, did the grant have a component in it that justified getting the credit for reduction of greenhouse gases?
Well,
I can speak to that, yeah. So the cap and trade program or the GHG allowances, that does, it's in the code or section where, what dictates what you can use the allowance proceeds for. It's in there that electric vehicle charging is a common use with the cap and trade proceeds.
So we have funds that we can tap for greenhouse gas emissions reductions. We gave away about $3 million of it back to the citizens recently, but we still have a significant amount of money in there. Does this have to be an either or?
No.
Is there any reason why we could not put together a program that said we will move forward with the plan that we have and we'll use our carbon credits and we'll use this grant that we have for the hospital? Is there any reason we can't do both?
No, there's no reason. We actually, the reauthorization of the cap and trade program has started to float, or actually the legislation for it. The Assembly has put together a pretty robust reauthorization bill that hopefully we'll hit the governor's desk by the September deadline. I know it's like a week, a couple weeks or something like that.
Well,
but
I'd like to suggest that we bring this back, but I'd like some input from the hospital as to really what the goodness of this is. Not that I in any way distrust that the mayor's not done the groundwork, but I'd like them to come and saying, hey, yeah, we'd like to partner, we'd like,
They're here in the audience as soon as we get a chance for it.
okay, well, I apologize, I'll wait.
I would say too, like, in this case, it'd be a public-public partnership, or public-private partnerships, and that's what, we're an electric utility, we're a publicly owned electric utility. We can offer charging at 20 cents per kilowatt hour. You see double, triple that in the Bay Area or other areas in industrial and utility.
Well, I'm just suggesting we come back with a creative solution and turn this into a win-win, because I want to support the hospital, they need parking. I have had many people complain to me about the parking in the hospital. I haven't heard from Home Depot, but, if there's some way to facilitate economic growth out of town, I'm for that as well, so let's see if we can make this a win-win.
I might disagree. Again, for clarity, I have no issues against the hospital's needs and their issues and the impacts. I think for me, it's like, again, why does it have to be, we gotta rip something that was a good idea over here to like, so yes, if there are funds and it can be creative and we can do both, yes, 100%.
What do you guys say we open up the public comment? Before we keep deliberating before we get public comment? What do you say?
I would recommend moving on this hastily. The application for the current program ends on the 5th, so this Friday. That's why we've done a bit of research for the last week and a half or so since the last council meeting. So we wanted to be prepared to try to solicit those funds. But, thank you.
Did I take public comment? Yes, or no, sir?
I think that I was.
All right, go, Councilor Baker.
Thanks. Just to remind everybody, there's no reason we can't make it all work at the same time. One of the alternate directions here is, regardless of who you want to go in first, that we can make both of these things happen if we find the money. So basically, we could move forward with the 123 North 8th Street and simultaneously get the future funding without waiting for the future, as was stated, because almost always waiting for the future of what? We can maybe do things hand in hand and make these work, together. So that's basically what I wanted to remind them. There is an alternate direction here to make both these happen.
Let me open up the public comments. Did some of the questions answered?
Hello, my name is Jeanette Cope. I'm the CEO of Global Valley Medical Center.
There's a button on that, you can lower that down somewhere.
Thank you. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members. And I did not prepare a statement tonight. I knew that this was happening, but I do want to make sure that I really get the point across. Thank you, Mayor Mosby, for all the words that you just said. I've been meeting with so many different leaders in our community since I took over as CEO a year ago, and meeting Mayor Mosby and just going over the challenges that our hospitals has, and one of them is our parking. We've been planning for about 2 years now on our 77 parking spots, and early on, the whole project was going to be maybe about $1 million, getting into the my maintenance guy is here as well, director of maintenance, but getting a transformer, getting these EV parking spots, it's now $2.1 million. And with all of the potential Medicaid cuts that are out there, we're looking at $14 million annually losing just in supplemental cuts. So everything we can do in our organization, we're doing to cut costs anywhere we possibly can. And when you think about parking, that's the first thing that goes. $2 million. We need that $2 million to build the village project that's in the works right now. But hopefully we have open in 2026, and that will open access for all of our community members. So any whatsoever partner, I don't want to rip the Band-Aid off of any other project either. Do not want to step on anybody's toes. we just really need some support in parking, if there's anything that you can do to help get parking for our staff and for especially our visitors, for patients and our visitors. We have old ladies and young men walking on, from the street in a walker to get to their appointment, and it's getting out of control. Any help, support, again, do not want to rip the Band-Aid off of anything, so this all happened pretty quickly, so anything you can do to help us, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Back to the council. So again, we're not, even the plans that you do have in the future, the whole reason was to try to help work with the hospital and assign, maybe expedite it over there. Had a grant for a number of years here and actually have an extension because it was kind of going really slow over there. And if we can help in this situation, plus continue to apply for grants and other things. The thing that Stephen had done such a great job in putting this together was like, these guys are in need. Here's an opportunity with something here. We can assist and expedite this and then come along on the other one, because it doesn't seem like it's a rush order. If you go by the hospital, you're out of town, but if you go by the, you were there not too long ago. It's pretty busy. It's very busy at the hospital. It is difficult. And what I'm asking to do, again, the medical thing of tearing a Band-Aid off, I thought that was, we're not tearing the Band-Aid off of it. The plan said he still has can be put to use in the future as well, even if we do go to the other location, to come back and do that. I'm not saying not do that. What I'm saying is opportunity we have right now and the need by a fellow partner in the city, that's all I'm looking at right now is to move forward with this. And it might not all line up. I'm just trying to open up the opportunity that if it would line up, it could get us to the hospital at this time. Again, if there could be a hiccup down there that it doesn't work out, but we're just trying to. And there was some leniency with Aaron at ABCD, willingness to work with us and
Yes.
even enhance potentially. I believe you guys are still filing for more grant opportunities.
Absolutely.
Because this was only 10 spaces, they need 17 charging stations. And the city did partner with the other unit that's there, that has 4 units on it right now, so it's not like we haven't done it before.
I do think, just to weigh in, I do think the timeline, because they have to go back to revisiting the plans, trying to cut costs a little more on the project, it would essentially line up. I mean, we'll apply by the end of this Friday. We'll have a grant offer typically around early December, late November. So grant after the Thanksgiving, before Christmas, we'll know. We would bring it back for a grant agreement, and then at that time too, have a more or less like an MOA. We do have an MOA with the medical center currently for the stations that are out there. But looking at who pays for what, because the beam stations were different. That was more to kind of get a demand signal from the community, put something out there, utilize the grant funding, and there were no infrastructure costs, so to speak. Now there's infrastructure costs. There have been EV charger projects that have not come to fruition because of costs that we provided, or deposits that they needed to put in for electric infrastructure. So I do think that's going to take some time, definitely, to see what that partnership looks like, and whether it's the same as a private entity or other public entities. I think that's definitely something I would consider. But like I said, the grant application's open this week. If not, I mean, if we were to switch it, the way I see it playing out is we would apply with the plan set that we have for another grant, and then move, kind of replace one for one, which might not, it just might not make sense. I mean, even with their project costs, it's about, you can get up to $250,000. So I just think it's a bigger thing for the buck also with that.
Right, thank you, Stephen. in talking with the ABCD as well, and understanding that the parking lot we were looking at putting it on East Street, they're currently looking at, and their objective is to get as much activity on it as they can. I think the hospital parking lot would meet that objective as well. Not saying that we want ABCD has, Continue has the grants that are coming forward. This is one of the, yeah, that's, we would take this to Councilmember Bridge.
I'm actually getting a little confused now, which is becoming common in these meetings. I'm hearing 2 or 3 options on the table here. And not to put words in anybody's mouth, I feel or kind of interpreted what the mayor is saying is, let's use the grant that we've got now for the hospital.